Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today I would like to talk about suppressors and kind of the difference between the pistol suppressor or the moving barrel and then the larger suppressors, kind of like the fixed end barrels or the fixed barrels. So I know when I first started looking into suppressors, I didn't really have any friends or anybody that I knew that really had suppressors, knew a lot about them. And so I just had to do a lot of research. A lot of people tell me, hey, I just want to have one suppressor that can kind of do it all. And that's the way that I was. There are some suppressor companies out there that advertise that kind of stuff, and I am a little biased. As you can see here, I have two of them. But I'm going to walk through just kind of my experience, and hopefully this just provides an additional tool or resource for you while you're looking for your suppressor. So the first thing I want to talk about is like a pistol suppressor. So something to notice about a semi-automatic pistol is that this barrel right here will go down. So anytime this slide goes back, the barrel will go down. I believe that's a feeding mechanism. If I'm wrong, tell me in the comments. But I believe that's a feeding mechanism. Well, if you were to put a suppressor or just something on the end of this and fire it, it wouldn't cycle very well. It would jam pretty often because of that weight and everything else holding that barrel down. Well, a suppressor that is built for a pistol, if you're to actually look inside it, and today we're not going to really talk about baffles or the suppressor as a whole or anything like that, just kind of the fundamentals, let's say. But if you were to open up this suppressor and kind of look inside of it, you'll notice that there is this piston right here and this spring. This right here configuration helps that purpose. It helps enable that barrel to slide back or to go down when that slide goes back to eject those rounds. If you weren't to have this, again, it would just jam up. So that's something that very important to have or to see whenever you're looking for a suppressor for a pistol. The other thing that's very important to notice or to pay attention to with a suppressor that's going to fit on your pistol is the size of it. What's the length of it? What's the diameter of it? What's the weight of it? It's important to know those things because, again, the heavier it is up front, the harder it is for it to cycle. I know that I've shot thousands of rounds through this right here pistol. This is a Walther PPQ 45. I've shot thousands of rounds through it. It's never jammed. Without a suppressor, it's never jammed. Never had an issue with it. But if you put a heavy suppressor like this on it, it sometimes will jam. This right here, suppressor, this is a rugged 45 Obsidian, or I'm sorry, I think it's a rugged Obsidian 45 suppressor. I can actually pull this end cap off, slide it down in there, and I've got a shorter, lighter configuration. But the weight is something to note on these suppressors. Very important to note whenever you're shooting a pistol. Now, the other thing I should mention about this is if I were to pull that spring out and just put that piston back in and lock it or thread this back on and put it together, this right here would act very much like this suppressor. So this right here is a Thunder Chicken by Q suppressor. Now this one right here is modular, meaning that I can reduce the size of it. I can actually pull the baffles out, clean the baffles if I want to, do any of that kind of stuff. And so it's what you consider a fully serviceable suppressor. If you see fully serviceable, that's what it means whenever you're doing your research, is that you can kind of pull it apart. This right here suppressor is kind of the opposite. So it is all one piece. You're not going to get inside of here. This suppressor, as you can see, is a lot larger diameter. It is a little bit shorter with the full length configuration of this suppressor, if I were to pull it down, he'd be quite a bit shorter. But this right here caliber rating is for, I believe it's up to a 4570 government with a 16-inch barrel restriction. That is something you'll want to double check me on. But this one right here is I believe it goes up to a 300 Win Mag round. So I can't shoot anything bigger than a 300 Win Mag out of this right here suppressor. But as I was mentioning earlier, without that spring, this becomes a fixed barrel suppressor, just like this one. So I could technically, if I wanted to, I could thread I could thread this one right here onto like a smaller caliber, and I could thread this one right here onto a smaller caliber round, and they would behave just fine if I was shooting like a bolt action 22 or something like that. But there are obviously pros and cons to these. An obvious pro to this is that they're quieter. Suppressors, they're just fun to shoot. I do pretty much always wear hearing protection and eye protection anytime I shoot, but with a suppressor, I really don't have to, which is really nice because as you're shooting, you can socialize, you can talk to people. It's not just something where you have your earmuffs on and you can't hear anything. So the pro side would be the suppressor. The pro side would be the quieter part, or quiet shooting, more enjoyable shooting. A con to suppressor is obviously first and foremost the cost and the waiting. I know that the ATF wait times have gone down significantly, which does make things more enjoyable, but the wait time, some people just don't want to wait. The other thing is that suppressors, they can sometimes be heavy if you're carrying them around. Some people don't want to carry them. On pistols, there's to me a lot more cons than on a fixed barrel rifle. Again, it all boils back down to the kind of that jamming issue. If you have especially poor form or anything like that, it's gonna jam. The heavier your suppressor is, it's gonna jam. But you kind of outweigh that with the sound suppression. I would say when I pull the trigger on this guy, let's say I do 100 rounds, it's probably gonna jam probably 10 rounds out of that 100. So about 10% of the time it's probably gonna jam. And that's a lot higher than you'd probably like to hear. But they do jam. But like I say, the lighter the configuration, the smaller you can get it, the more compact you can get it, the reduced risk you have of jamming when you're firing. The other thing with these right here is that obviously a suppressor, in order to keep it quiet, it has the gases and everything, they want to escape out of the front of the barrel. Well, a suppressor obviously doesn't want that to happen. It wants to hold all that sound and everything inside of this right here can, all that pressure. Well, when you're doing something like that, you're causing all that residue, everything, to blow back into this right here. And so that's all the more reason why you definitely need to wear eye protection when shooting something like this right here configuration, because as you fire, you'll feel some of that stuff come back and hit you in the face. You definitely don't want that stuff getting in your eyes. So anyway, I do want to pull the trigger a couple times on these just to kind of show you that, it's enjoyable, it is fun. I think they're worth it. And I am glad I got two. I think they're very versatile. It allows me to do different calibers, and it can kind of do the smaller calibers up to kind of the larger 5.56 and 308, 300 Win Mag rounds. And so I really like that. As far as the modularity, the serviceability, I have talked to a couple people, done a lot of research on that. Some people say, hey, it's amazing, I love to be able to clean my suppressors. Other people are like, I really don't care, you never should have to clean it. I'm indifferent on that. But I do like the modularity, especially on something that's going to go on a pistol, to help shorten that configuration, make it more smaller and compact. I really don't notice a difference between having the full configuration and kind of the shorter configuration when shooting this pistol. This right here suppressor, the fixed barrels, I mean, I really don't have any complaints. The only complaint you could have about them is the fact of, besides cost and wait time, is they're just more weight. But again, it's enjoyable to be able to walk around and talk to people and do those kinds of things and be aware of your surroundings, basically. So anyway, we'll do some shooting and I'll get back with you. I'm just going to shoot 3 rounds out of each one of these firearms. The pistol, I am shooting 230 grain rounds. They are not subsonic. And then with the 308, I am shooting 155 grain hollow point boat tails, and these are also not supersonic or subsonic. These are supersonic rounds. I think 45 is naturally subsonic. I think it's kind of right on the brink there. Again, somebody in the comments will let me know if I'm wrong on that. But anyway, let's shoot these real quick. Something to keep in mind whenever shooting a suppressor, especially on a gun barrel that moves, is the threads sometimes, the suppressor will get a little loose in there. And so you want to make sure about after every mag, make sure to go in there, check it, and that is securely fit to that, to your barrel. There's that jam. I'm sorry, these larger calibers, as they do get a little hot, and so sometimes after you shoot these, especially even after a couple rounds, these things get very hot, so you want to wear some kind of hand protection to get them on and off. It always makes me smile after I shoot a suppressor, especially on something like a supersonic 308 round. How quiet it is, how enjoyable it is to shoot, especially on a beautiful day like this. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully it helps you out while you're looking for a suppressor, kind of what you're looking for. Again, I think suppressors are just like firearms. Each one of them has kind of a unique purpose, what it's made to do, and hopefully this video kind of sheds some light on different things and something to keep in mind as you go through and do your research. So anyway, hope to see you in the next video. Thanks.